It's been 4 years, and Charlotte just had her 8th birthday. She's had probably over a dozen surgeries total. She ended up having to have a liver transplant. Our little girl started her first day of school with a slick bald head
and
hearing
her little
aids
hearing
from her
aids.
chemotherapy.
Her chemotherapy caused hearing loss.
But kids are also resilient. Our little unicorn warrior has an incredible heart. She was completely unfazed.
Through this whole journey, Charlotte has really guided us because she has been so strong and smiles her way through it. And if she can do that, if Charlotte can get through this the way that she does, then we can do that. And so we just follow her lead.
We had to talk to her about the last surgery. She was 7 and quite intelligent and cognizant and asked very good questions. And there is no section in the Mommy and Daddy handbook for that conversation when you're talking about a lung surgery to remove cancer. Another thing that comes with pediatric cancer is you're immersed in a culture. We've come to realize how blessed we are in some ways because we've gotten to know other families who were diagnosed with cancer or blood disease, and not everyone has the means. Here in Southwest Virginia, it's very likely that you will have to go elsewhere to receive the specialized care and the resources you need. And sometimes you don't know what you need until you realize you didn't have it. We've gotten to know some families that are near and dear to us.
Whose journey it ended earlier maybe than it could have, should have. And when we lived on the oncology floor in Cincinnati, it was kind of like you were living in an apartment complex and these are your neighbors. I met so many mothers and fathers and watched some of them lose their kids and some of them battling just like us, had to travel away from where they lived. They couldn't all be there, and sometimes none of them could be there. So you have little kids in a hospital fighting for their life with no family there. And a lot of them they'd lose their home, they lost their jobs. And so if you have the ability to stay closer to home so that you have that support system is everything for those children. It is actually a part of what gets them through it. Sure, the medicine and other medical resources are the biological and scientific part that cure children, but keeping their spirit alive and up is a huge part of them being cured.
And we got to know some very sweet young souls with a lot to offer the world that are not here anymore. Oftentimes, the treatment and cure of this disease is just resources. And you have to go where they are, or they have to be where you are. And all of these kids are worth every single ounce of resource that can be given to them.
Children are actually a lot easier to cure than adults with cancer because they're so resilient. We have a very small fraction of the resources that are available to adults for children. What we saw is that even with old, antiquated chemotherapies that are for adults, these kids are just bouncing right back, and just shows that even with what we have now, it's so doable. We can cure these kids if we could give them more.
And most importantly, we need the resources where our kids are. Our first major surgery in Cincinnati, we were standing there in a waiting room, 3 a.m, all by ourselves.
Yeah.
Just the 2 of us. So thank goodness we had each other. We probably didn't see anyone we knew in person more than 2 or 3 times for a solid year.
Oh yeah.
That just makes the journey so much harder.
Because Roanoke Memorial covers such a huge region, it's absolutely necessary. There are so many people in Southwest Virginia, West Virginia, and when they're diagnosed, this is the closest larger hospital for them to come to, so they deserve that.
And the beautiful part about it is sometimes the difference are resources around transfusion. They can be radiological, they can be nutritional. These are resources that money can buy. This is doable. World-class care can be right here in Southwest Virginia, in Roanoke, Virginia. It is just a matter of money. We all have to accept our own mortality And you can reconcile that, you can accept that, you can carry that because you know that. The one thing I think a man or a woman is not built to do is to face that with their kids. A man is not built to watch his child suffer and face that threat. There's something very unnatural about it. In those first few weeks, we were losing her. And it all happened so fast. When it's your child there slipping away from you, how do you know what's enough? Because you're never going to surrender. But when we were there in those moments where she had basically lost consciousness and was fading from us, that's as dark as it gets. There's so many families in the valley that had those same feelings that we did, and their worst fears were realized. And that's what we have to use all this for, is to change the outcome for the next family.